It is officially Citrus Bowl week. Tennessee is in town. They practice today. But the news of the day is that Tennessee will have a new starting quarterback for the Citrus Bowl against Iowa, and that is Nico Iamaleava. That era has begun.
Yes, it has, and this is a situation where we've been talking about it for several weeks. Would Joe play? Would Joe not play? And it's been trending towards this direction over the course of the last 2 weeks. And Joe's made it official that he's going to move on. I think he's doing everything he can and has done everything he can to mentor Nico. And I think that was important because it was important for Joe a year ago when he got put into this situation against Clemson for different reasons. But Hendon Hooker was so vital in his preparation. I think Joe feels like that's important for him to pass the torch on down the line to Nico, who's up next.
Now, Nico's been handling all the first-team reps in practice. Joe's been at practice, but it's been the Nico show in practice. Tennessee's slowly been transitioning to Nico. And, this is going to be a big test. Iowa is a tough opponent. Statistically, they're a top 5 defense. They're a bunch of veteran players who can get after it. They're a big front 7, especially along the defensive line. Going to be interesting to kind of see how this game plays out for a young quarterback, coupled with a few young pieces around him like a Cam Seldon.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, Nico is a guy who has progressed the way you want him to. I think when you've seen him play in games, the game looks a lot slower to him now compared to when you saw him early in the year, which you would expect. I think he's put in the work and has developed. But as you mentioned, listen, Iowa's going to do everything they can to try to confuse him. They're going to try to bait him into some throws and do some things. So I think for Tennessee early on from a play calling standpoint, keep it simple, try to use your speed to your advantage, stay ahead of the sticks and get him into an early rhythm and get him going. And we'll see what this thing looks like. I know Tennessee fans are eager to see it. We're all eager to see what it looks like. And I think Joe's going to do, again, all he can to help Nico, but Nico and his family and everybody's excited about this opportunity.
It's Wednesday. Tennessee doesn't play till Monday. So, there's a few days that you're going to be some build-up. There'll be people that come down for this game now just because Nico's starting that weren't going to come. But what's realistic for Nico in his first start? I mean, Peyton Manning, not to try to put the parallels there, started against Washington State, another good defense, completed 7 passes for 79 yards. Tennessee won that game 10-9.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you just want to get a win. But what's realistic for the young quarterback?
Yeah, I think a couple things that are a little bit different. One, Peyton Manning was doing that very early in his career. He was not here for spring practice. Nico's been on campus almost a year.
Yeah.
So basically, this is the redshirt year.
So you're saying 403 touchdowns. Boom, he said it.
So I think it's a situation where you want him to be efficient.
Sure.
You want him to take care of the football. And again, I think this offensive system is pretty quarterback friendly. I'll be curious to see how much they run him. Is it a situation where they run him to let him kind of get into the game like that, or do they have a couple things out of the gate to settle him in? I'm sure they will, to get him going. And then it's the stamina mentally and physically of playing a full football game. I mean, he hasn't done that. Think about it. In his high school career senior year, he probably didn't play many 4-quarter games, right?
Yeah.
Because they rolled through. He's only played a limited amount. So mentally, how's his stamina for 60 minutes of football? And those are the types of things. But he's got a lot of coaching help around him. And they're going to have to run the football, effectively. And that'll be a wrinkle we haven't talked about a whole lot. You mentioned the young guys out there. It's not just Cam Seldon, but, Dylan Sampson's not been a guy who's carried it 18, 20 times a game. And that may be the case, in this game against Iowa. So how does the parts play around Nico as well as Nico in terms of the expectations?
Joe will be on that sideline, but it will be another young guy, Gaston Moore, who will have his second straight bowl game as the backup quarterback. Did it last year when Hendon was out. He was the backup to Joe in the Orange Bowl. Now will be the backup to Nico here in Orlando.
Yeah, and again, he's a guy who knows the system. He can operate for you. So, I mean, you're okay there. I think the bigger storyline and the bigger question is just how efficient is Nico going to be? And I'll say this for the fans. I mean, everybody should be excited. We're all anxious to it. It's going to have some moments of, wait a minute. And you remember back to that Orange Bowl a year ago where Joe was anointed everything coming out of the game. They had like 5 3-and-outs in that game. I mean, they sputtered offensively at times. There will be moments in this game where you go, he's a freshman. He's a newcomer. And that's just part of the growing experience. But you want to get as much of that experience as you can now before you play in Norman, Oklahoma, and you play in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you play on the road in Arkansas to start the year next year. These reps are just invaluable moving forward.
No doubt about it. And one thing's for certain, there will be overreactions one way or the other in this game, which means if he doesn't play well, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end. What are we going to do going into next year? Again, it's one game. It's a good defense. And if he plays well, Oh, the Heisman in 2024. Here it comes. Either way, it's going to be a lot of fun. Coverage from down here in Orlando will be all week long. He's Brent Hubbs. We'll have coverage from Josh Happel's comments when he talks about Nico is the new starter for Tennessee as we head into the Citrus Bowl against Iowa later this afternoon.